Welcome back, travellers, and welcome to episode 2 of Cheflocked, the series where Clarence cooks his way through every expansion in order and I recreate one dish from each episode right here in my own kitchen. Last time, Clarence took his very first steps as Azeroth's most determined chef in training. We learned the basics from Thomas in Goldshire, cooked our way through charred wolf meat all the way to dry pork ribs, completed the entire first 2 pages of Clarence's cooking journal, and even tasted victory in real life with a fresh batch of herb-baked eggs. But that's just the appetizer. Today, the challenge gets even bigger, the recipes get weirder, and Clarence's journey takes us deeper into Azeroth's kitchens, and maybe a few danger zones. We've got new techniques to learn, new ingredients to hunt down, and a whole lot more cooking ahead of us. So grab your apron, sharpen your knives. Episode 2 starts right now. We're picking up episode 2 right where we left Clarence, inside the Lion's Pride Inn, fresh off cooking a beautiful batch of dry pork ribs. Sadly, that wasn't quite enough to push us over the threshold for a new recipe from Thomas, so we dig through our bags, hoping the leftover ingredients from the last episode can carry us the rest of the way. Nope, we stall out at 99 cooking, 1 single point short. But no big deal, all we need is a quick ingredient run. I send Clarence over to Westfall to grab some crawler meat so we can whip up a couple of extra crab cakes, and on the very first kill, the RNG gods smile upon us. We loot an old school classic, some would say iconic, the recipe for Westfall stew. Naturally, Clarence reads it right on the spot, and as if fate itself handed us the recipe, it shows up as orange in our crafting menu, meaning it's a guaranteed skill up. If I remember right, this recipe has changed quite a bit over the years. Back in classic, Westfall stew needed vulture meat, a murloc eye, and gortusk snout, a true sampler platter of everything trying to kill you here in Westfall. And honestly, while it did capture the spirit of the zone, I can't help but feel that the modern retail version sounds at least a little more appetizing, because let's be real, nobody's waking up in the morning craving a bowl of eyeball and snout soup. Naturally, since this updated recipe only calls for a single chunk of boar meat and a bit of spring water, we add Westfall stew to the tracker and head right back out to hunt some gortusks in the surrounding area. After picking off our prey with Clarence's trusty bow for a while, we finally gather a good stack of boar meat. With our bags full, we head back to home base, grab some extra spring water from Brog behind the bar, and cook up a hearty pot of Westfall stew over the roaring fire. That's the first recipe marked off in the recipe book for today's episode. Who knows what other delicious treats we'll be cooking up today. After cooking up a storm, Clarence reaches cooking level 115, but Thomas still doesn't think that he's worthy for the next set of recipes just yet. While Clarence is selling off a few odds and ends to the barkeeper Brog, the human leans in and shares us a little rumour. There's a man in Stormwind who sells recipes even Thomas hasn't heard of. According to Brog, this mysterious vendor is often spotted drinking in the Pig and Whistle Tavern in Old Town. Wasting no time and always hungry for new knowledge, Clarence heads straight to Stormwind. Once he arrives at the Pig and Whistle, he slips into the kitchen and talks to the staff. They do have a recipe for smoked sagefish, which we of course take straight away. But when he asks about the shady dealer, suddenly no one knows a thing. A little confused, we scan the tavern to see if anyone looks even remotely shady. Downstairs, it's nothing but drunkards swapping stories. Nobody who seems like a secret recipe dealer down here. So, Clarence heads upstairs to check if someone might be hiding up there, and that's when we spot him, a suspicious looking man drinking alone in the corner of the upper floor. He introduces himself as Kendor Kabonka, a name that honestly sounds like a background character from a Star Wars film. After flashing our coin purse, Kendor finally reveals his wares, and it's an absolute treasure trove. 2 full pages of recipes we've never learned before, and some of these are straight up classics. We kick things off by grabbing Murloc fin soup, Red Ridge goulash, and of course the smoked sagefish recipe we bought from downstairs. A haul worthy of any aspiring chef. There are plenty more tasty options on this list too, so you can bet we'll be coming back when we need future dishes to cook. Eager to get started, Clarence reads all 3 recipes on the spot. Looks like we've got our next batch of culinary challenges lined up. Speaking of which, we've still got some spare Murloc fins stuffed in our bags from earlier. I'm sure they're looking fantastic after sitting in our bags all day and night. Questionable ingredients quality aside, Clarence heads downstairs to knock out the second recipe of this episode, Murloc fin soup. With a fresh set of recipes in our book, we're kicking things off with Red Ridge Goulash. Since we need some tough condor meat for this one, Clarence heads straight into Red Ridge to hunt some down. After a close call with a whole squad of gnolls, Clarence decides to head into the opposite direction, scanning the skies for any condors lurking nearby. Thankfully, he brought his trusty bow. Most of the birds are perched high above our circling gracefully, making them a challenging but worthy target. While Clarence is out on his hunting spree, I just want to take a moment to say how incredibly grateful I am for the support from episode 1. I've read every single comment and tried to respond to as many as I can. They truly mean the world to me. Some made me laugh, some offered tips, a lot freaked out over my glass chopping board, sorry about that guys, and some were already hyped for episode 2 before it even existed. It might sound a bit personal, but it hit me in a way I didn't expect. I've had some tough times in the past, as I'm sure we all have, and one thing that always cheered me up was watching my favourite YouTubers drop new content. Knowing that my videos might make someone else's day a little brighter or bring a smile is an incredible privilege. I honestly can't thank you enough. As a creator, my goal has always been simple: make each video better than the last. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here and joining me on this journey. Anyway, enough of the soppy stuff, let's get back to Clarence and see how he's doing on his culinary adventure. While I was rambling, Clarence managed to gather 10 chunks of condor meat and is already heading back to Goldshire. Behind the inn, at the small lakeside dock, we meet Lee Brown, the local fisherman, ready to teach Clarence how to reel in his next meal. Eager to put his new fishing skills to the test, Clarence heads up to the wetlands. Rumour has it the flooded areas are teeming with sagefish he needs for his next dish. Scanning the pools, he spots a few fish disturbing the water and lands his first catch immediately, earning an achievement for fishing from a pool for the first time. Keeping an eye out for rogue water elementals, Clarence proves to be a natural, quickly hauling in 10 sagefish. With our catch and condor meat in hand, it's time to head back home and cook up some new dishes over the fire. And just like that, that's the Red Ridge Goulash and smoked sagefish both marked off the list. With these two under our belt, let's take a peek at Clarence's cookbook for the first time this episode. As we completed the first 2 pages in episode 1, we're already on our way to completing page 3. Not a bad start at all. Clarence getting his first achievement early reminded me of something. I've seen a few comments asking if cooking achievements could be incorporated into the challenge, and my answer is simple: why not? 2 achievements immediately catch my eye. First, a journeyman cook achievement, just 150 cooking skill points needed, and we're already on our way. Then there's a Hail to the Chef, which requires completing 11 other achievements and grants us the prestigious Chef title. This one's a longer term goal, so I'll be keeping track of this as we go. As long as the objectives stay within the classic WoW zones, we'll aim to chip away at this each episode and beyond. Back in the kitchen, Thomas is impressed with the aromas wafting from our latest dishes and decides we're ready to learn a new recipe: Goblin Deviled Clams, a zesty dish that calls for some tangy clam meat. These clams are a bit trickier to track down than the ones we looted from the Murlocs in the last episode. These specific clams only drop from the Naga guarding the entrance of Black Fathom Deeps, so that means another trip to Kalimdor. So Clarence grabs a flight down to Booty Bay, waits for the next ship to roll in, and once it docks in Ratchet, he hops straight on to another griffin headed for Ashen Vale. Another long journey ahead, but all in the name of culinary glory. The thick shell clams we need are dropped by Naga lurking inside the caves leading up to Black Fathom Deeps, specifically the Black Fathom Tide Priestesses. So, with his trusty bow in hand, Clarence heads into the dark, damp tunnels of Black Fathom. Now, the drop rate on these clams is supposed to be around 46%, but for a while it feels way lower. Luckily, Clarence has built up some serious patience and some pretty sharp bow skills. After all the ingredient farming he's done lately, eventually we managed to gather a solid stack of clams and crack them open to reveal the tangy clam meat inside. Ever since playing Classic as a kid, the word tangy in tangy clam meat always threw me off a little bit. It sounds a little suspicious, like it's going to go off or something. While hunting, Clarence also finds a surprisingly decent pair of leather boots on one of the Naga, and of course, he slips them on immediately. A little bonus loot never hurts. With the tangy clam meat finally in hand, we hurf back home to the Lion's Pride Inn, ready to toss it all into the fire and cook up our next dish. Finally back at the hearth, after braving the damp, unforgiving tunnels of Black Fathom, Clarence wastes no time firing up the stove and cooking a fresh batch of Goblin Deviled Clams, knocking another recipe off the list and straight into his cookbook. With Thomas fresh out of new recipes for us, it's time to pay another visit to our favourite shady recipe dealer at the Pig and Whistle. After a quick dance with the barmaids, Clarence heads upstairs and finds Kendor in his usual drinking spot. Browsing through his wares, campfires, we pick up the gooey spider cake, crocolisk gumbo, seasoned wolf kebab, and, what seemed to be a fan favourite in the comments last episode, the beer-basted bar ribs. They won't give us any cooking levels, but the nostalgia alone makes them worth every penny. With our new batch of recipes in hand, we make a quick detour to the auction house to offload some of Clarence's leftover ingredients. We need the extra copper, and honestly, we don't want these fresh ingredients going bad in his bags. Better to let someone else put them to good use, of course. With our new recipes added to the tracker and tucked safely into Clarence's cookbook, it's time to start hunting down the more ingredients. First on the list, crag bar ribs, for the beer-basted bar ribs. Since it's a true dwarven delicacy, we hop on the deep run tram to Ironforge and head out into the snowy peaks of Dunmoreau. Breathing in the crisp mountain air, Clarence stalks his prey, picking off crag bars one by one with his trusty bow. After a few laps around the frosty hills, we finally snag a nice rack of ribs ready for the cooking fire. Next up, we trade snow and ice for water and mud. It's off to the wetlands. Quick griffin ride drops us into the marshes, where the wetland crocolisks are abundant, perfect for gathering the tender crocolisk meat we need for our crocolisk gumbo. The grind is actually pretty smooth here, as the drop rate is pretty high. Using our trusty hearthstone once more, we head back home before making a trip down to Duskwood, where the wolves and spiders share the shoreline. We get straight to work, taking out anything that moves. Gathering these ingredients takes a little bit longer than the last one, since we need 2 of each per dish and the drop rates aren't overly generous. After what feels like an eternity in Duskwood, we finally have enough cooking ingredients to cook our 4 next dishes. Time for a quick jog back into the inn to get cooking. After cooking a few of each dish, Clarence hits classic cooking level 144 and marks 4 more recipes off his cookbook in one go. With Thomas still busy in the kitchen, he takes a stroll through Stormwind to clear his head and stumbles across a friendly lady fishing at one of the small docks inside the city walls. Luckily, she agrees to teach him how to catch bristle whisker catfish. After reading recipe, we stroll to a nearby fishing spot and catch our bristle whisker catfish in no time. After a sunny walk through Elwyn and a brief Tauren transformation in the tavern entrance, Clarence heads to the kitchen and cooks up the catfish, marking another recipe off the list and earning a journeyman cook achievement in the process. Impressed, Thomas agrees to teach us our next recipe, tasty lion steak. Good news, but it's pricey, taking out over half of our gold in one go. Oh well, we'll deal with the finances later. For now, with new ingredients to hunt and halfway through classic cooking, it's time for a change of scenery. Off to Calendar and the Barrens to track down some fresh lion steaks. Taking a boat over to Ratchet, we make our way into the Southern Barrens, ready to hunt down the ingredients we need for our next culinary challenge. The sun beats down, the wildlife stirs, and Clarence readies his bow. It's time to track down our next prey. Finally making it into the Southern Barrens, we start stalking the prowlers hiding in the tall grass. While we're gathering our ingredients, we spot a rare spawn, Azir the Skyblade, gliding overhead. Clarence brings it down with ease and dings level 13, and also scores a double whammy of loot. Not only do we grab the lion meat we came for from a nearby kill, but Azir drops a brand new pair of gloves and a ring. Not bad at all. Almost straight after this, we snag a brand new belt as well. The Barrens has been incredible, not just for ingredients, but for the gear upgrades too. After gearing up and gathering for a while, Clarence heads to a nearby lion's camp to cook up our freshly carved, tasty lion steaks, and with that, another recipe gets checked off in the cookbook. Speaking of which, let's take a look at where we're at. Nice, we're this close to filling out pages 3 and 4. Just one more recipe to go before we head back into the kitchen and start cooking IRL. Now that we're planning to spend more time in Calendar, we need a new home base, a fresh kitchen Clarence can call home. Looking over the map, he remembers one of his brothers used to be stationed in Ferrymore Isle in Dustwallow Marsh, always talking about the tavern inside the Alliance Keep. So with that in mind, Clarence heads to the nearest flight master, hops on a griffin and soars straight towards his new culinary headquarters. After landing and asking the locals for directions, Clarence wanders into the Demon's Bane Inn and Tavern, where he meets the resident chef, Craig Knollwood. But since they're not exactly best friends yet, Craig isn't willing to share any of his culinary secrets. Looks like Clarence needs to sharpen his skills a bit more first, which means it's time to hunt down the final recipe of this episode. Looking online, I can see there's supposedly a cooking trainer inside Razorfen Downs who might be able to teach us something new if our skill is high enough. Alright, here we are. Let's head inside and... oh, okay, maybe not then. It looks like we're not allowed in. Maybe we're just too low level. Strange. Alright then, looks like we have to do this the old fashioned way. Let's head back out into the harsh wastes of the Barrens to farm a few more lion steaks. Maybe we can push our cooking level just enough for Craig to finally share some new recipes with us. Or not. After only a short bit of hunting pride mains, we hit a new cooking recipe jackpot. First, a fancy new cape that drops, and then, on the very next kill, as if fate itself stepped in, we find today's final recipe, the savoury deviate delight. It won't give us any skill levels since it only needs cooking level 85, but Clarence never turns down a new addition to his recipe book. Let's learn this right away. Checking the map, it looks like, even after everything the Cataclysm did to the Barrens, there are still some pockets of deviate fish up in one of the northern oases. After a quick bit of fishing, we finally reel in what we need. Looks like it's time to head back to our new home base and cook up the final recipe for this episode. Back at the tavern, we head into the kitchen and cook up some scrumptious, savoury deviate delight. And with that, Clarence's cookbook is officially filled for this episode. With our culinary work done, Clarence kicks back for some well-earned rest and relaxation in the tavern. So let's take a look at what we're cooking in the real world. In case you missed it, I held a poll on my YouTube page with a choice of 3 dishes we mastered this episode, and winning by a huge margin were the beer-basted boar ribs. Thank you to everyone who voted. If you all like this system, this is how we'll decide the real world dish for every episode going forward. So without further ado, let's teleport to the real world and see what's next. So, beer-basted boar ribs it is then. Time for some IRL crafting and ingredient gathering. It's a chilly November afternoon here, so I'm wrapping up warm and heading out. Let's hop into the car and take a short drive into town. We've got a few stops on our list today, and just like in Azeroth, every good feast starts with a proper supply run. First things first, here's our shopping list for today's real world version of beer-basted boar ribs. We need molasses, ketchup, red curry paste, a full rack of pork ribs, garlic, shallots, and a bottle of beer. With the list sorted, it's time to hit the shops and start gathering our ingredients. First stop on our ingredient hunt is molasses, and if you're in the UK, you'll know this stuff is basically a rare spawn. Most of the local supermarkets around here don't stock it at all, so we've got to travel a little further and head to a specialist store. Luckily, I know a place in town that usually has a few jars tucked away. With our first ingredients crossed off the list, it's time to head over to the indoor market and visit the butcher. I come here pretty often, as their prices are fair and the quality is always top notch. Ribs secured, it's back to the car and off to the local supermarket to grab everything else we need. Thankfully, the visit to the supermarket is nice and quick, as it's actually quite quiet right now, so it makes ingredient hunting a bit easier. Back home and fully warmed up, here's the full haul laid out and ready to go. Luckily for me, this recipe appears in the official World of Warcraft cookbook just like the last episode, so we've got a solid guide to follow. As for the beer, since my local shop definitely doesn't stock Rhapsody malt, I've grabbed a rich coffee stout instead. Malty, bold, and honestly a perfect stand-in. I'm a stout drinker myself, so I'll probably be taking a few sips of this while I'm cooking. You know, strictly for quality control purposes. First things first, I want something hearty to serve alongside the ribs, so I'm making some simple, reliable potato wedges. I start by washing a few Maris Piper potatoes, then slice them in half and cut each half into thirds to get those chunky wedge shapes. Skin left on, of course, for extra flavour and texture. And before you all flock to the comments, yes, I know I need a wooden chopping board. I promise I'll upgrade this soon. Let's see what great Father Winter brings me this year. Since this is all just prep work and the wedges won't be going into the oven for a few hours, I pop them into a large bowl filled with cold water and a pinch of salt, then slide the bowl into the fridge. This keeps the potatoes from browning and helps draw out some excess starch, meaning crispier wedges later on. Next up, shallots time. The recipe calls for them to be finely diced, along with 1 clove of garlic. I grabbed my trusty and slightly questionable £1 AliExpress garlic crusher to speed things up, but of course my phone decided not to record that part, which is typical. Still, here's the finished result, a neat little pile of diced shallots and freshly crushed garlic, all prepped and ready to go. Next, we need to get a saucepan on the hob with 1 tablespoon of olive oil. In goes the diced shallots and garlic, cooking for around 3 to 5 minutes until fragrant. Once these have softened up, it's time to add 1 teaspoon of Thai red curry paste. I went for the Thai one instead of the normal one because I love Thai food. 2 tablespoons of molasses, 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, 1 tablespoon of vinegar, 1 cup of ketchup, and of course the lovely coffee stout. I let that simmer on medium heat for 20 to 30 minutes, stirring occasionally until it reduces into a semi-thick, rich sauce. After about 30 minutes, the stout sauce has reduced nicely. Thick, rich and full of flavour. Perfect for basting the ribs once they go into the oven. With the ribs prepped, seasoned and the foil lined tray ready, it's time to lay out these beauties on a wire rack. A throne fit for our £6 masterpiece. A general sprinkle of salt and pepper on both sides to lock in the flavour, getting them ready for the oven and their beer basted glory. The ribs are now snug on the baking tray, ready for a slow roast in the oven at low heat for 3 hours. Every 30 minutes, we'll baste them with our stout sauce, letting that sweet, sticky glaze build up layer by layer until they're tender, juicy and packed with flavour. After what felt like the longest 3 hours ever, the ribs are finally done. Please excuse the lighting in these shots. It's now dark outside, so there's no natural light, so it makes the ribs look actually really burnt. I promise they're not though. Look at that sauce. It's bubbling, the ribs are piping hot, and after letting them rest for a few minutes, it's time to slice them into portions and serve alongside our prepped potato wedges. Absolutely mouth-watering. And here's the moment of truth. Taste test time, and I must say, these are incredible. The meat is falling off the bone, the sauce hits that perfect balance of sweet, sticky, smoky, and it just has that subtle kick of the curry paste at the end. Absolutely delicious. Big thanks to everyone who voted for these. Our plates didn't have a crumb left behind. And with that wraps up episode 2 of Cheflocked. What a wild and delicious ride we've had so far. Here's a quick side note. Did you know that you can now become a member of the channel? Membership perks include custom loyalty badges and emojis for our comment sections, a YouTube member title for the Discord community, and if you go to the Runesmith level, you'll even get a shout out in the outro of each video. Just hit the join button next to my name to take part. I'll also leave a link in the description. Of course, if membership isn't your thing, just being here, watching, liking, commenting and subbing is more than enough for me. I'm truly privileged to have you along for this journey. So, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.